Welcome everyone to the 108th weekly live stream. Yeah, 108th. Yeah, that's what it says. We're there. We've completed a rotation of the sun twice and a few. You know, just for good measure.
Woohoo. Just to make sure, you know.
Yeah. This week we have Aliqua.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh my gosh. I just
Are you okay?
flashbacks to Dream Phone. And
Wow.
Princess Fluffy's eye
Hello.
on the other side of the Dream Phone.
Which boy is gonna call you?
It's going to be Discord.
You guys are crazy.
We try to be.
Yes, that's... No, the MLP DS, our mantra is silly.
Silly.
Hey,
It's different
Binky.
from crazy.
Howdy ho. Neighborino.
Yeah.
I feel like I had to finish it off.
Oh, it's gonna be one of these days, ain't it? It's gonna be great. Just the best.
We're a class act. What are you talking about?
Come okay.
Come on.
Oh, all right.
See, look, I just realized I haven't even joined the session yet. That's how classy we are.
Classy.
Yeah, I was like, did LD tell us to draw piles up?
Yes, I did.
He did, and I just opened the program and didn't do anything else.
So, oh, you have a thing for us. Well, we can
Please give us presents.
scroll
Right
out
at
of
our
this one.
face.
We're just gonna wait for yours to show up because first come first serve.
Oh yeah. Live service.
And they get to see all the other pictures. It's a sneak peek.
Some would say service like this is a feature.
CPC,
First try and I got pressure sensitivity.
your mantra is fluff. It is fluff, 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 fluff.
Listen, Zamzam, just like make her a mod so she can take over with fluff. It's just like an uprising. Uprising of fluff.
What would I make her a mod of? Like the subreddit?
Fluff.
The fluff?
Well, you could, of the Discord, to fluff everything on the Discord. Everyone's required to have a fluffy icon.
She
as
can
well
enforce
as-
the rules of the plushie fort. You know, everyone must have a plushie. Your room must be at least 20% blanket or pillow.
All important things.
Binky?
I'm sure they're getting the link.
They're getting the linky.
Binky getting the link. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Up there it is.
Which
Up there
we
it is.
I wasn't gonna
responded to
do
like
it, but you
15
beat me
seconds
to it.
late
Oh, that's
because
cute.
the stream delay.
That's so cute.
So they posted it and then we're all there. Just like, oh, where's the link? Where? Come on! And oh, there it is. And they're just like, oh, come on. Got places to be. Got ponies to critique.
What? Quack.
Yeah.
Quack.
You a duck suddenly? Why are you quacking?
Because I'm swimming. Cool.
That quack is whack.
It's always good to be proud of finishing stuff, Binky.
I love the colors.
Very nice. I like the expression.
I'm a
I like that it
sucker.
has two wings.
Yes.
You just about see the other
Yes.
wing, like there.
All right. Do you have any questions offhand about this?
Anything you want us to look at? Well, I just get my terrible drawing set up. Everything's way too much for a mess to draw.
We will do yours next, Corin.
Is that someone in Discord?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Woohoo.
Such a happy pony.
So, I don't understand. 1 hour we're starting?
Give it a moment to catch up, maybe.
Yeah.
There we go.
I wanted to practice dynamic posing, and halfway through I tried out shading. Oh, so is shading like a new thing for you? Is the shading sort of like the darker purple part of the main, or is it
Yeah.
like a softer? I see some bits of like softer shade
like-
on like some parts of the body and stuff, but
Little on the hoof there.
I would say it's not because of the tones of the hair, and this is a problem that I find a lot in MLP. Actually, is a common thing because of the tones in the mane and stuff. Sometimes it can be very hard to distinguish what's shade and what's just a tone. It's a very tricky problem to get around because that just happens when your pony has like main colors which are like a darker tone of the regular main color, because it can be mistaken for shading. The thing I'd say is that the shading's very, very subtle. Like even on the body, you can barely see it. I would say don't be afraid to make it a little bit stronger. Maybe sort of have a think. I mean, it's great to see that you're trying it. That's what I'll say. But maybe have it like you can think about sort of like the setting. Okay, she's up in the sky above the clouds. The sun's probably completely like unblocked at this height. She's lots of bright, which is also going to be creating lots of shadow. So sort of think about how that light sort of would look on the body, if that makes any sense. How the shadows would. Sorry, but I'm gonna. Oh, what tool am I even on? There we go. Trying to sort of color and then everything's blue. So you can go for something kind of blue because you've got all this like sky and water vapor coming off. So you can do something like that. You got something to do something a little bit more grayscale like LD was doing there, or something a little bit more blue like I'm doing. It's sort of up to you to experiment with that. And I would say maybe couple it with highlights. So like on the mane, you could also sort of do like a bit of a softer yellow. Actually, going to experiment and see if I can sort of make a right color. No. Without opacity. I don't know, but experimenting with lighting as well can also really help. But I'd say with the tones like this, like I was saying, how it's really hard to make the shading look different from the colors. A good way is making sure it's soft shading and not cell shading, because then that automatically gives you a distinguishing. It is a little bit soft, I can see that, but it's still somewhat like solid in a shape. If that makes any sense. So who am I echoing through right now? I can like hear my voice. And someone.
I don't know. None of us are on speakers.
Huh. That is strange.
Unless the mic was picking up the headphones.
That has happened to me before, actually. Oh, I was hearing a little bit of echo. That's weird.
But yeah, and like continue on. Like I love this part of shading here. You took in the idea of like where the hooves are and how like there's some shading here, but there won't be like in the rest of this area. And I love that. It's just push it more. There needs to be more. And like I drew like this big old bright sun up here. Boom, because you're gonna have a big old bright blue sky with a big old bright sun. So you're gonna have fluffy fire on the sun. It's perfect.
Well, they're sunflowers, solar flares.
But yeah, so you're gonna then also have that added to it. So like we were talking about highlights as well. Like there's always shadows, but there's also highlights. There's like the three, basically in the most basic sense, there's like the three ranges of colors, or three ranges of value or shade. Like the shadows, the neutral color, and the highlight, or the, you know, where the thing that pours the light onto the body. So there's always sort of like these, I don't even know what to call them. They're different things that happen to the base color. One of them stays the same, two of them change.
Saturation, brightness, and luminosity.
Oh,
yeah, that's the same.
Hey,
What's up?
The areas we shaded, they shaded. So this is the issue.
Yeah.
Your shading.
Yeah,
was
that's what
not-
I was. Yeah, what I was saying was that it was too soft, and I was
Yeah,
sort of going over
way,
like a
way
color
too
you could
soft.
use. It wasn't so much the shape of it; it was the color and tone of it.
Push it.
Push it to the limit.
Yeah, if it's not appearing, I'd say just push it harder. I don't know. How are
Yeah.
you shading? Is it with layers or? Dang it, we
As
were
opposed
flagged
to
again.
just drawing it on the color.
Mhm.
Because I would definitely say different layers myself. Like how I arrange pictures, because I like to have everything particularly organized. I have three main like folders. One has the line art in it. Then I make one underneath for the colors, and then I make one in between for the shading. And that the whole folder is set to multiply. So then I'll just change opacities and colors that in a way that it works. Yeah, the body can be a pain, and you know why it's going to be a super big pain, and why I mentioned putting highlights in the main specifically, because she is very white, and putting highlights on that body will not be easily done.
I was
That's the
about to
thing
suggest. Oh,
yeah, the darker something is, the harder it is to add shading, and the lighter something is, the harder it is to add highlights. Because you can't go any lighter than white, and she looks pretty white.
like something. It's always nice to encounter. Like, we know from the show Rarity, despite looking white, she's not perfect white.
Yeah,
and
no.
There's some OCs that do indeed.
Actually,
choose
this
perfect
pony is
white.
exactly white. I just
Yeah,
did
I just did a color test too, and my point here is that even if you're presented with an OC that is white, or you make one that is purely white, in art you kind of do things to trick the eye. It's not very like technical and scientific, this aspect, where we make things appear white while not being completely white. 'Cause it's always best, if you can, to avoid using pure white in most any circumstance. Yes, it's good. I'm not saying never use it, but for stuff like this, it'll really help boost the shadows and highlights and give you more to play with. But that's just one little opinion.
Yes, I agree. I always really hate when it's like I have to draw something like a character, and it's like, oh, here's the ref. It's like exactly white or black and something, and it's like I'm sorry, I'm not gonna. I always like just slightly adjust the color so it's not total white or something, because it's like I know that's just not okay. I'll make it as close as I can, but it's got to be slightly off.
Even
And
Rarity
like,
has color.
yeah, she's slightly blue.
Yeah, it's slightly gray and slightly colored. The same goes for Celestia. She's slightly pink. I think Vinyl's slightly pink as well, or slightly blue or purple or something. I can't remember.
And like sometimes it'll feel extreme. Yeah, like I was saying, I understand some OCs have like these really bright white colors, and that's hard in art. That's hard to utilize something that you can't push higher, but you can only drag lower. And you can do things that'll still satisfy the person you're drawing for without, exactly going by their color. Because sometimes it's about making it look like the color. There's a lot of times where there's like the illusion test, or the color illusion, where you see white and black squares next to each other, but they look like they're changing color, even though they're not, because one's sitting like in a shadow.
Yeah.
One's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Optical illusions. Yes.
Optical illusions. So even if you're presented with something that is pure white, you can still make it seem pure white or white, and not have to be pure white. And if someone's really picky about wanting it to be pure white, then of course you just change it, call it a day.
Yeah.
That's their choice.
I've never. Yeah, I just finished a commission myself where it's like I get having to change things that I didn't like to do, but when you're taking commissions, you kind of have to. But I mean, and honestly, I've had this a bunch of times where it's like, oh, here's this pony, the coat is exactly white, and I always like put it off color a little bit. They never complain about it. It doesn't, because it's such a subtle change, you don't really notice. But I mean, in real life, you are not going to get something exactly white. We have very white-looking objects, but they're never going to be actual full exact white. Everything's going to have like light bouncing off it with atmosphere, and we're seeing it in our eyes. So like, it's always going to be a bit different. And the same goes for art, I think.
Fluffy, you gave away your secret.
What?
They're gonna know now. They're gonna know.
What?
They're gonna know now.
Oh, about like not putting things off color and everything,
They're
or
gonna
not
know.
putting things exactly white.
They're gonna be like, "Hey, I
Like
paid
they
for
never-
this color."
Like they never care. Even if they do notice, it's like, yeah, cool, whatever.
Why do I have a pickle helmet?
I don't know, but I love it.
What?
Discord.
I'm drawing. I'm doing the one job that LD so rightly.
I
Wow,
demand
Fluffy, you
pay
had
attention.
2 jobs.
Pay attention to everything, everywhere.
No matter what I don't do, you're just gonna add another job.
3 jobs, Fluffy.
Where's that other ear,
Like
Fluffy?
you had 56 and a half jobs.
You're just that talented.
But
but yes.
Caraston too is talented.
Yes. All of you are so talented. Every single one of you who's ever touched pencil and paper, you are so much talented. That was not English. So
Just
it's fine.
I
we're just
understand your word feelings.
I'm excited.
Derpy just brought us a
You
letter.
are so great. Oh, letter. But yeah, going back to the picture, we never touched on this, but this pose is very dynamic. Like, I love the action and the movement going on, so props to that, really. The only thing I would suggest is that she's flying forward. Maybe have her hair go backwards, like have it drag behind her a bit. Show that like greater drag of going forward motion,
Yeah,
like
like
her
think
tail
about
instead of
when Rainbow
Oh,
and Fluttershy is flying forward. Yeah, exactly as Ali's saying. So
Like,
you imagine them flying.
push her
And,
back.
yeah, it's always like whooshing and kind of like fluttering about in the air.
And like even the big swooshy hair, like Fluttershy flying. Well, at least not her like little flutter flying, but her actually
Yeah,
flying
like
forward.
actually flying.
Fluttershy. Oh, now I have cute images of Fluttershy in my head. Dang it.
I always do. Welcome to my world. Welcome
Yeah.
to my waifu.
So yeah, despite being sidetracked, is there any other questions? I know we talked about putting color in your shadow and your highlights, like you'd get some really bright, maybe slight yellow tints from the sun since you have an uninterrupted blue sky and bright sun.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
some
was
blue
saying,
gray.
and I was suggesting blue shading because like all the clouds and sky and water vapor and everything, yellow highlights because of the sun. But that's why we experiment. There's all kinds of different things you can try.
All the fun.
You could even do some like sort of pinkish shading on the side, like where her mane is covering around her face and stuff.
Just this, and it's funny because like a lot of this stuff is just like the littlest hints of color. You don't need to throw all of it. It's just a little hint will go a long way. And I know I'm learning that recently more and more, that you don't need to throw your slider halfway across the world to get the color change you want.
Yeah, it can sometimes really subtle differences can really make it. And there's no reason to regret something, Binky. You can always just like go ahead and like have a little change to something else. I mean, if it's done and done, then so be it. But you can always like make a
The
change and
next
say,
one.
hey, look, I made this little experiment. Would you like this version instead? Or yeah, like Ali said, next one. Just sort of like learn and grow and try it with the next thing. The only other stuff I changed was the eyes were like really close together. I think there would be like a bridge to a nose there, so I sort of separated them, and so just to sort of show you what it would look like there. You can sort of adjust it as you want to experiment. If you want to experiment with it, like we say, take our advice with a grain of salt. It's all up to you, really. The only other thing was like just like a slight mistake. The color on the hair didn't quite go into the corner, which is like something a problem I'm always facing, but I'm always really meticulous because I know it like happens a lot. So just is even then I so many times I'll upload a picture and it's like gone on Boru and it's like been reblogged on Tumblr and it's everywhere, and then I know it's like a gap in the corner or something. It's like, oh god, why? So just like point that out in case you didn't notice it. Unless that's what you were talking about when you said you noticed it while you were coloring. I don't know what exactly they said they meant they noticed.
Hey, Rexzilla. All right, shall we move on to the next one? Unless Binky's got more questions.
I'd be game for that.
Do you have any more?
But I do want to say again, also like the eyes. I love the eyes. I love the volume of the hair. Though I'm a sucker for very voluminous hair.
Yes. That's Ali's jam.
What can I say? And I like how you blurred the background too. It like really puts the focus on the pony while still giving stuff happening in the background. So those are my finishing touches. Unless you have any other questions, we can move on.
Dun, 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 dun.
what the little corner gaps in outlines as hell. It can be.
Oh, I hate that.
Can be so frustrating. I always since I color with a selection, I make like a big selection. I just go through to any corners I can see since I've got the little marching ants line, and just do it there.
All right, Corin, you with us?
We always like immediately recognize your style with these pictures.
Wow.
Hi, I
Yep.
am here. Am I loud?
Yeah, it's
you're
your
fine.
picture.
Yay!
All right, cool.
You definitely
Yes,
have
I am
like
here.
your own sort of little don't even know the word, but specialty kind of thing on your sort of like tall, well built humans and everything. And the style of like lines and colors and like faces and everything is also recognizable with you.
Yeah,
He
it's
said-
mutated into its own.
And that's what happens with everyone with art. That's how you develop style.
Anyways, my question was I'm starting to do some real figure drawing, so I'm more or less tracing over people and figuring out where all the things go. And I wanted to know what my usual anatomy problems are, because I have since forgotten.
Have you looked back at any of our previous videos where we critiqued your art? Because that'd be good. No? I honestly, hop back to some of them. Because if your question is, what were my previous ones? It's like listed out for you in them.
I would say, I mean, it's not exactly so much of an anatomy thing, but it is kind of related to it. I'd say a lot of the sort of shape is lost because there's like a lot of mess to the sort of shape of the clothing, and it's really, really good to get like creases and stuff into the clothing. Like I said, it's kind of anatomy, but just not anatomy of people. Creases can be very hard, but I feel like this is like very bumpy here, and then you've got like a lot of like little niggly bits, which I can see what you're trying to do, like definitely to get that sort of like detail on the creases and clothing and stuff. But I sort of get lost as to what's actually being shown. Like I said, here you've got like this really bumpy surface, which suggests to me that there is some volume here, like there's a gap under the clothes between the clothes and the skin. I do sort of feel like it depending on how much you want, that would maybe be a bit smoother because it's pressed against the skin, and then maybe a bit more baggy on this side. But yeah, it depends on the kind of clothing and how tightly it's hugging. Whereas like around here, it's like, where exactly is it being pulled? That's the question you need to ask, really. It's like, where is this clothing sitting, and where is it like dragging, and where is it being pulled? Because you're gonna have like, where there are bends, like here, there's gonna be a lot of fold, and here where the legs are and stuff like that. Whereas in other places, like around the arm here, it's going to be hanging down, or it's just going to be like straight flat because it's like the body is filling it so much. It's a very, very tricky thing, and I can see like this is really nice here. You've already got some like some stuff that's really working well for you. It's just a case of like looking at more references of like clothing and stuff, and more like tutorials on it, and like just because it is very tricky to learn, but I think it's a case of just constantly absorbing material, because then you just kind of get a hang of it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely no expert on it, but like it you can start figuring it out, I think, just from just taking in and devouring as much stuff on it as you can, and then you just sort of maybe start to get it absorbed into your art style.
Okay, cool.
Study.
So yeah, just thinking about places where the fabric is being pulled, thinking about places where it's like more solid or filled by the body and stuff like that.
All right. Yeah, I think that's about all I had for this one. There's really not much else going on here.
If I may, it's a good picture.
Sure.
You have from when you first started submitting to now, definite noticeable improvement overall.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more like volume and life to everything, I feel, from when you started.
Yeah, you're all,
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned a lot of stuff. I've learned so much stuff
yay.
just doing
All
this
the
as
stuff.
often as I have.
We're happy to hear that.
Maybe I'm not sure how tightly tucked in this arm needs to be. It could always be sort of like brought out a bit more as an experiment, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes it's worth playing with.
Yeah. there was a weirdness about this pose where she was kind of supposed to
Yeah.
be
The more I
half
look at it, the
kneeling
more
with
strange
one
it
arm
is.
dropped and one arm raised, but
Yeah.
there was a disconnect there, and I don't know when that happened.
Yeah, the more I mean, it looks good at a glance, and then the more I look at this arm, the more I sort of like, and everything I tried to sort of visualize in my brain to make it better, makes it worse. So like maybe you have done the best thing. It's just like it's
Yeah.
hard to sort of understand. I think,
Yeah,
like,
I
and
was
I mean
even drawing up
that's true
pose.
for a lot of poses. You can look at someone posing in real life, and it looks like perfectly fine, and then like you look at it in drawing, and it's like, what's going on?
Yeah,
Or
I was
you
even drawing over a pose earlier,
yeah.
and she's got her arm in the same basic
Hmm.
position, and it still looks
Yeah,
weird.
it's sometimes even in the photos and stuff. Yeah, it's still
Yeah, like even as a picture, it's just like,
Yeah.
how does this work?
and it looks fine at a glance, but then as you look at it more, it's like what? So maybe
Wait,
that just means you drew it really realistically.
Maybe. I don't know. I was proud of this one. I got the singular point lighting. It's very bright, and there's even a red tint to her, as opposed to what I normally do. So
I noticed the tint around the feet.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
really
really
only
see it.
noticeable there because it's like a 2% tint that goes over the whole thing.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally like to use color overlays, which I do as gradients, literally as overlay layers, like the layer type.
Yeah.
And but sometimes multiply or screen or whatever if I need to. But like I do those because they sort of add a lot of dynamicness to the color. But everyone can sort of experiment with their own stuff when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And I do
And
sort of like
this
the
one,
I like the effect it has because you look down like it otherwise goes just into blackness, but you got this red tint and it kind of makes it look nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on this one, I found that when it comes to lighter colors, it's almost always more beneficial to use overlay layers when I do my grayscale shading, and then when it comes to black and stuff like that, it's usually better to go with the hard lights. It works well for the most part. This one came out really well doing that.
All right.
The only thing one last thing I'd say is that I'm just kind of doing a sweep of all your shadow areas, and they're pretty much all near black. I would still say kind of push away from the black and get more color into it. Cause like I said, I'm just pulling the dropper tool all the way along. Like the back of her hair is near black, and their pants are near black, and the only
And not
thing-
even just the actual like near blackness, but it just kind of looks grey. But like you could play with the red, have like red sort of a reddish shading to sort of go with the theme of the picture and the
like
color.
a purple, kind of like because
Yeah.
blue and red make purple, kind of like a cool shading, but still
Experimenting is
colorful.
always good, yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
like work less away from grayscale and black and more towards color and working the difference of value to make colors look darker.
Oh, and I just noticed the shadows of the feet are like stretching forward as if the light's behind her, but like the rest of the body, looks like it's coming in front of her.
Yeah. Like, the light source is that cross on her hand, which is
Oh,
kind of in the
Ah.
middle of everything. So
Yeah.
it's
I see.
it's in a
not
weird
very obvious
place.
because it just kind of it's the same sort of light as everything else. It doesn't look like it's giving it off. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can easily sort of like do that with like just get some screen or overlay layers or whatever, and just like do some like soft like airbrushing around to make it have a glow. Or you can do
Yeah.
you can be more creative with it. You can sort of do that more subtly, and then change the line art to be lighter around it to sort of help give off that effect more subtly. So up to you
Yeah.
to experiment with that. I'm actually
Now
gonna
that I
make a
think about
layer.
it, could have used a glow layer right on top of that and just used red glow.
Yeah.
To
So you don't want to get
get it
too.
to do
Oh
the
god,
thing.
what have I done? Where's my layers? There they are. I lost my layers for a second. Insert layer. Screen. There's no screen. There's a dodge.
Remember, you're still in a bad program.
Yeah. Literally just hitting that. I forgot. Yellow.
Hold on
It's
now.
like a yellowy light. It's like a holy symbol. So, oh, that's very bright. It's very, very, very hard to be subtle with these tools. This is the max size I have, and it's like lowest hardness, and it's still doing this. Still too bright. So I will actually deeper color, and then go ahead with a slightly brighter color inside, just to build up to that. That looks horrible because it's dodge, but that's what happens on the program with very limited options.
Did someone just drive a muscle car through my head?
What?
Probably.
No, that's outside my room because I got a really nice mic and I still don't quite know how to mess with it yet.
I was supposed to have one delivered today and it didn't. I'm annoyed. I'm
Ooh,
so
and
That is.
the awesome KT or Chaos in Discord
there it
did
is.
a really great anatomy thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Ooh, way to go.
Shoulders, man. The tricky.
Yeah, shoulders are hard.
You're awesome, Katie.
Thank you.
So I think that's all I have to say on it anyway.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
glow is red, but all the same.
Oh yeah. So, like, I was just sort of messing with it, but you can do what sort of makes sense to you.
Similar
I
idea
need
to what
to
ran through my
yellow
head
because
anyways.
light sources are typically that sort of color, but I give it like a very warm yellow because like, oh, it's like a cross, like a holy symbol. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know the context, so
It's a she's vampire hunter. Vampire hunter.
I don't watch it.
Different thing. Anyways, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty then. Where'd the pen go? Oh geez, who stole my pen? Was it CPC?
It wasn't me. It must have been CPC.
No, mousy.
The ultimate blame game.
We're all it's just because it's like a running joke of like us stealing each other's pen for some reason.
All right, want to draw? You're still with us, right?
I did see them
Wanna
say
draw?
hello. I want to draw all your lovely
You'll
faces.
wanna draw, but my desk is not very nice for drawing at.
You shouldn't be drawing on the desk. You should be drawing on stuff on the desk. Come on.
I said drawing at.
Ah, I didn't hear that. I'll be honest.
Oh, good. You have popcorn to get your critique done. See,
Yay.
we should start doing that.
We should.
Popcorn with your critique.
All right, want to draw? Let's talk course.
Course.
That is what you're here for, right?
Is this a practice sheet of practice doodles?
It is.
I wonder. Ooh. So, any questions you have?
You're taking words out of my mouth here. It's weird.
You have 4 jobs, Fluffy.
They're growing.
We should just get a running list of it.
It's like when I'm doing my radio show and it's just like whenever something goes wrong and someone's like, you had one job, so I'm like, yeah, and that one job consists of like 50 jobs.
Run the stream, buddy. Come on.
There's like paying attention to the sound levels, making sure Discord's okay, there's making sure the music's going through alright and not too powerful, and it's like making sure the connection's right.
I like that method, want to draw. I've heard that method talked about a lot, drawing in pen, so you don't get caught up in correcting yourself so much. Because I know, at least when I started drawing, I was always about like, oh, I gotta erase this 70 times, and I'll spend 3 hours on this one eyeball
definitely do that.
because I erased it another 47 times, and. But
and
pen
oh, now the
method-
paper's all broken up because
Yeah.
I erased it too much.
Yeah, yep. I think we've all been there at some
I mean,
point or another.
I think it worked well for me personally. I would have a sketchbook, I would try and draw something. Sometimes rarely, I would be like, okay, I'm just gonna try this again. But like that's more of a recent thing. Usually in the past, I would just draw something and work on it until I got it right, or until it didn't work and I gave up on it and moved on to drawing something else. But that's still good not to get like caught up with things. But I like your idea of like I'm gonna force myself to just like draw and like not worry too much about it.
Mm-hmm. Expressions are fun. That's actually why
They're
we chose
very-
this sheet because, like, yeah, it's a fun topic to talk about.
Yeah, like so many of the characters have great expressions, and they're all very different. Like characters, the characters all have such a huge, like just looking at the main, like extended main six, like including like Starlight Spike, even like other friends as well. They all have such an incredible variety of expressions, but they each will also have their own repertoire of faces. Like Twilight's a great one; she has so many good faces, and then like Rainbow, Rarity, like Pinkie Pie especially, they have their own sense of what's dynamic and what's expressive and what's like dramatic. But just like it's gonna be so much fun just to like get up like a page of different expressions in the show and just try drawing them. I love, even without doing that, I love doing expressions because it's like you can change something so subtly, but like change the meaning quite drastically of the of the whole picture. So it's so much fun to do.
Us humans, we are always analyzing expressions, so it's like the idea behind hands. It's so hard to draw hands because we know what they look like and it's ingrained in our head, but we don't know how to draw them. Same thing with expressions. We spend all of our time, consciously or unconsciously, analyzing expressions on people. So
Yeah.
it's like...
I really want to do more like studying of expressions in ponies because like they, in addition to having much bigger, much more expressive eyes, they and like squishy, more expressive faces, they also have their ears, which we don't. They have all these ears that flop around in different directions and mean different things. It's like, God, you could have an entire communications as a pony with just like faces. But you didn't have any specific questions then, just sort of like, I wanted to know if there's anything that you think we fill us off. Is that right?
And while we're waiting, I'll quick plug this one. There's this one expression tutorial, pew pew, I'd like to share with people. Basically, it's, I don't know, I've enjoyed it as a really nice breakdown of understanding expression and how, like, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but Lackadaisy Cats. It's a comic. It's been published to books, blah, 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 blah. They did a tutorial on expressions, and I just always like sharing that tutorial because it really does a nice job of, like, breaking it down without being a textbook. I know sometimes, like, there's textbooks of information we can read. Sometimes it's easy to just start by just reading a little tutorial, a little breakdown of it before you dive into the deep stuff and studying and blah, blah, blah,
because
blah.
it's like gives you that preliminary
words are hard
idea of just like you sort of get it in your head, you get it in your brain, sort of in that zone of thinking, and then you can just like shoot ahead, or you as well as getting like actual ideas, like, oh, I want to try that specifically before you go in. Preliminary. I had to say it in my head first. Like slowly break it down.
And of course, we can always go back to Disney and staring at your face in a mirror, because sometimes it's as simple as staring at your face in a mirror doing something crazy and then making it 10 times more crazy.
And as usual, and on that note as well, like just exaggerating it, just like looking at cartoons and just like how, and looking at them like the most drastic and exaggerated expressions, and say like what you could do. This is an idea. You could take like something like what you got here, or just like something new you draw. You can just draw like a face. Like, okay, like just take just this on the really bad there, but you can just take this face here, the shocked one, and say okay, and then like you go in and then just try drawing it more cartoonishly and like looking up similar expressions and just try really stretching it and exaggerating it, as like exaggerating it a bit more and a bit more until you like, and as you do, you'll sort of open up different branches, like avenues of exploring and how, oh, I could exaggerate it this way or that way, you know, and it kind of reads differently.
And don't worry, want to draw. You can read all the tutorials in the world, but using those plus references, the bulk of it is then practicing. Practice, practice, practice. Make it ingrained in your mind. It's some of the stuff you can't just read and learn automatically. You got to put it into practice, get it critiqued, critique it yourself. Self-critique is very valid and should be used every once in a while, because that helps you pick out your mistakes. And sometimes that makes it stick even better than us saying things.
And you're also building up your analytical mind as well.
And don't worry about drawing without references either. There's no rule in art to be an artist you draw without a reference. In fact, real artists draw with references all the time.
Yeah, we're always telling people to do it, of course.
Yeah, because I hear a lot of people's goals is like, oh, I want to draw without references. It's a nice goal, but
it's like,
You have to
Draw
understand the
what? Because if it's something,
Yeah.
if it's like the same character you've drawn 50 times, then yeah, you probably could achieve a point where you don't need a reference for them. But even then, if you're drawing them in a different way, you might need a reference. And like,
hmm
but just for drawing anything in general, you're gonna need a reference for like anything that you do if it's
hmm
like not what you're totally used to.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's like
Yeah.
also nothing wrong with drawing something without a reference. Like say you're out and
Yes.
about and you want to draw, you have an idea and draw something. Go ahead,
Yeah.
draw it. You can draw it without a reference, and then maybe you want to make it more. So you go back home, you get some references, and see how you can fix it.
Yeah, and
Like,
then what you do that is great because then when you look at the difference between the two things and you look at like the shapes you drew without reference, just like from memory or from or whatever, and then you look at the referenced version and it's like wow, look how much like neater everything is, you know.
mm-hmm.
'Cause it will happen. And I was just gonna say like just like Ali said, yeah, like you draw with it's absolutely fine because I was gonna say this in response to what you said in chat, like it's absolutely fine to draw with references and then like as you go you will build up that like the muscle memory just the analytical mind and you'll get things in your head that will just be
Mm-hmm.
responsive for you, so you will end up being able to draw faces without a reference, and of course you can so the point I'm at, a lot of artists get to, which I think is kind of the best place to be in, which is like I can draw faces and expressions without a reference. I also can use a reference, and then I have a cool like idea that I can like use as inspiration and like reference next to me, and that's also like both of those are just as good. It's still nice to have a reference to look at and like bounce ideas off of, as much as it is just to experiment with my own like creativity. So that's
Mm-hmm.
like, don't worry about either way. Like, just draw however it makes sense, however it works. You know, just keep doing it.
Yeah. Practice.
And did you drew this on paper? I take it like this was traditional. You said it was with a
The
pen.
pen. Yeah.
Because obviously, like in real life, it's a little bit more tricky to mirror. You have to actually get a mirror, and then it's like a bit sort of tricky, and you're like holding it up, and it's like not an exact perspective. Whereas on the computer, you just press H. But
Join.
so it's a little bit. Oh, I think on this it's V. Yeah. Oh, and when I press V, okay, I can like way more easily see. Basically, if I was if this was on the computer right now, I would press the transform button to get this Twilight, this Starlight face. Here's my impression of the little transform box. I would grab this, and then I would drag it this way, or maybe like to here. No, actually the other way. No, I would drag it this way. Because it's all kind of a bit askew, but you can only see that when it's mirrored.
Also, she has
Otherwise,
a little bit of a flat head.
I'm actually going to keep it mirrored just because. So there's all sorts of like neatening up you can do, but obviously it's a bit harder to do on paper. Like just sort of getting, and it is something that everyone is going to go through. You're not in any way like not good enough because oh the drawings don't look right when they're flipped around. I kind of felt that way a little bit when I was younger, like oh like I'm just not good at like getting things very accurate. Everyone's gonna get things like looking weird asymmetrically because it just happens. But it's just sort of like working on it until you sort of start to figure it out. Eventually, you will like get better without even realizing it. Like my drawings just kind of make a bit more sense now mirrored, but I still plenty of times get something that just looks totally off. I was gonna say like Trixie's eyes are like quite sort of like asymmetrical and like not following the bridge of the nose. But like again, I'm currently working mirrored. I have this flipped around horizontally, so I'm working on it in reverse. And doing so, I can see exactly where everything needs to be because your eyes sort of get used to everything.
And
It's really
like
hard to see.
I think something that is really helpful that you didn't do here, and I know you're using pen, but you should still do construction lines. I see no breakdowns on the face. I see no attempt at a full circle head. You should still utilize those construction lines even if you're learning through pen. Sure, it's going to be a little messy, but that's learning, that's sketching. It's going to be messy, but you will learn more because of that mess. You're going to learn to use the tools you have, like those little, like drawing a full circle for the head will make, you know, things like this starlight right in the middle won't feel as slanted and oblong like an oval, or the placement of the eyes, because you'll have the little cross section in the circle to help you place things correctly and not have them askew. Even if you're using pen, you can still lightly do those pen things to get the under sketching, and then you just go over it a few times to make those certain parts darker. So don't be afraid to be messy, because those messy lines are not going to take away from your art. You'll see a lot of people who post sketches online that are like, oh, these great fabulous artists that are famous or, you know, in the fandom, blah, 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 blah. They'll have undersketching that's visible too, and it'll still look just as good. So don't worry about being super clean. Clean is not the goal. Learning is the goal.
Because learning is wait, no. Learning is awesome.
It's great to learn. Because learning is power. Schoolhouse rockin'. Get off the block. With your regular schoolhouse rock.
All right, before we get banned.
Not banned, just demonetized.
What monetization?
Exactly.
I see. Do you have any further questions want to draw?
Embrace the mess. Love the mess. The mess is your best dang friend. It's also how you get more dynamic poses and dynamic everything in general. Things become less stiff when you let yourself be messy. At least in my experience and opinion.
It's at the very least, even if you're like me and you prefer still doing things a bit neater. And it's not that I don't want to do things messy. I'm just more used to doing things neat. It's still always like good to experiment with and just to practice with and try messing with, just to see if it helps you work out a picture that you're struggling with, or just to like practice at getting like the shape and form down in your hand and mind.
No thanks. Ugh. Oh well. Well, if that's it, I guess we'll go on to the next person.
All right. Zooming out. I don't think anyone else is in our stream, so we're just gonna start moving on over.
Sounds good.
Got a lot of pics this time.
Whole lot.
It's already 11:20 p.m. and I'm gonna be up past midnight. Okay.
We got this.
We
can do it.
We're gonna be more concise now.
So this is by Elite Daddy, and it's been working on getting the face right before I can try the body. Any critiques on this cutie or pointers on bodies would be a godsend. Now, they've actually already gone ahead and done the body, because they have a follow-up post on this, but it has a bunch of critique. So we thought we'd go back and critique this one.
That way you get sort of different perspectives.
Yeah. So let's talk the face. 2-minute delay. Holy cow.
Yay, live streaming.
So I'm just gonna feel like the nose here should be a bit over.
I actually feel like the nose shouldn't be pointing up as high.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very squished up.
I can. Oh, if I could get onto my razor, I can experiment.
Like, I would say it should even go down.
Oh yeah. So looking at the direction of the face, I always see the nose is sort of just actually pointing up rather than straight across. Either way, but it's always worth playing with and trying to find that happy balance with no pen pressure stabilization.
So I think the big thing I would suggest is that the head right now feels a bit oblong. So usually pony heads are more constructed with the circle to have that nice like plump feel to them, very symmetrical, very cute, you know. So I would consider that more, because right now your head is very skinny. So we talk about I'm drawing in yellow, so just so you're not confused.
Yeah, I'm doing red.
I'm doing like the little face dissection that we talk about a lot on the stream. If you ever look back at any of our videos, we talk about this all the time. But the simple starting steps to a face is circle and a cross. So you make your big circle and you do it in swishes. Don't try to do like the little like scritchy method till you get like a circle you like. Just let yourself
Yeah.
swoosh. It'll be messy, you
It
know.
doesn't
You're
matter
not
if
gonna
it's an
make a
exact
perfect
circle. It
circle.
really doesn't matter.
And you can go back and correct yourself. Even if
Mhm.
you like do a swoosh and it's an oval, it's
Yeah,
like,
and a
oh,
circle's
whoops.
just a guide. So if you have that, you're like, okay, well, like my face is here, cool, and then I'm just gonna stick to where my face needs to be, you know. So it doesn't. It's just sort of a guide to help you define the area. The plus is the most important thing. The little cross.
They really help you, you know, put things where they need to be.
I
It gives you like
sometimes do see people like, oh, I don't need that. I don't use that, but it is actually very important. I use it most. Like any successful artist is going to use it. Otherwise, you're sort of like working without direction.
So, like a few things to consider. We talk about face proportions a lot. Right now, you can totally go with any kind of muzzle size you wish. The show usually is about 1/4 from the head. Like if you do a circle, it's about 1/4 tall from the bottom. I know I prefer to make them a little bigger because I feel like it makes it a little more fuller. So here you have it about halfway. Uh, Depending on where you're facing, personally, I believe the muzzle shouldn't be up so high because it's kind of like pointing way up. Like if we did a side view of this
Mm.
character, it'd be long and pointing up with how it's drawn. So I would actually go for a bit of just a slight slope down, you know, just like a,
Yeah.
and then you can have a little poke up at the end there.
But again, it's up to you to sort of decide what kind of. Oh, see, that looks very nice. Yeah, so making it wider, I think looks very nice. But it's up to you to go for how much slope you want to go for.
So yeah, it's a lot of that experimenting and like here I'll go over in yellow kind of how we draw like a cheek into play and just how that roundness feels on the head in general. It kind of brings more form to the face itself. So
I'm trying to go for something, see what it's like between our two different snouts. Draw in the middle.
so many options.
Yeah.
The other thing I would be careful of is eye size. I know ponies have really, really large eyes, but you have to kind of compensate. So you have a very large muzzle. It's about half the circle. And eyes are usually a lot more than that. They usually come down to the muzzle. If you look at the MLP style, like show style ponies. So when you have a bigger muzzle, you kind of have to compensate with the eyes, like do some slight moving around, changing. So I would say just make them slightly, they can be just as big, but I wouldn't make them as long. That would be my input there. And then of course you can do things like I just quick sketch some circles, and you can take your cross and you can put it up top and like you'll see how it connects. Like this spot connects here in a good line, and then same with the original cross you made right here, this bottom one. They connect at the bottom too as well. So another structural thing you can use to find, you know, where things go. Otherwise, I think that was the major issue. Things you can do to help yourself with horns. Horns start out as a circle on the head, so we'd break it down in simple shapes. That's about the angle. We think of, you know, the head as a ball. You think of where it'll be placed. Maybe that's not right. Maybe I don't like that. If it was pencil, I'd just erase it. Maybe I want it a little pointed higher. And then you can start off with the basic horn shape, and then you can transform that horn shape, the basic shape, into whatever you want, into changeling horns, into maybe you want a more curvy horn. You can curve it, swirl it, whatever makes you happy. But the basic shapes are there to help you. Starting with basic shapes will get you to anything more complex. The ears, I would say, are a bit high up. I would be pushing them down a little bit. Something like right here. The ears would generally start like halfway down the head if you look at an MLP horse.
Well, changelings don't actually normally have ears, so this is. I think this might be
They have like sort of little
those stalks,
tubey
ears. They have like their own unique
ears.
little ears.
and those do just actually just right on the head like a horn.
That's fair. That's fair.
Oh, I thought they were just like weird sort of like.
I'm trying to
string
figure
ears.
out because there's kind of this ear actually like right here that I'm outlining in yellow.
Yeah, I was trying to make sense of how that ear shape went too, and I just sort of wandered off in the brain thinking on that one. But I think if you're to do overlap up here, you could fake that it has a lip on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that might help give it the shape you're looking for, to give it sort of a bell shape inside. If that's what you're going for. If you're going for just like a flap, sort of like a excited dog's ear, well, then that's not your answer. Don't do a flappy overlap.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's I think that's it, guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all I got to say on the face. Otherwise, keep at it. Good job. Can't wait to see more drawings. Yeah.
So then the next picture, it is by Steam Flash. They might actually be in the chat.
Lend me some Spitfire.
They
Spitfire.
are not. Yes, this is by Steam Flash, and they actually submitted it after the stream started, but they sent a direct message to me, and they're just like, "Come on, I need my art."
Pro strats right there.
Yeah. So they're holy crap. Let me click on the link here because I'm just being silly here. Simple shading attempt at background. They continue to drawing from their previous week. This is the latest version of it. So Spitfire just starting to flap and raising her legs while keeping her front hooves on the starting line, ready for a race close to the ground, but she's not taking it that serious. More of a light-hearted race with a friend, perhaps. Someone previously mentioned drawing the edges of the light source, so I did that and kept it here while adding the shading. Okay. I'm pretty clueless how to do background, so I thought the type of one would... Oh my gosh, I feel like I can't read today. So I thought that type of one would be fairly easy, but I still think that I haven't done it right. I'm mainly looking for help while shading, but help regarding any aspect is welcome. As always, thank you for reading, and any help you may be able to give. Hey!
Thank you, Zomzom, for reading.
No problem. That's why you leave me here alone.
It's absolutely... Well, that, and I would probably fail at doing what you just did, so...
I failed spectacularly multiple times. I had to stop and go, what's a word?
How do English, please?
Alright, so let's talk this horse.
Yeah. Very cute.
Very
and
nice.
honestly,
Very cute.
I think this background works totally great. My biggest thing, integrate the character into the background. Add a shadow. She will cast a shadow just like there's shadows on her body.
Unless
I saw Zomzom starting.
She might be
If there's
the best
shadow on her, there will be shadow off of her. Yes.
Little shadowy area. And that'll get it attached to the background. That'll make her interact with your background.
Mm-hmm. What you could even do, I don't know if you want to do this, completely 100% up to you, because it might not work, but you could always try doing another bush somewhere out here in the foreground, and then maybe blur it a bit, so you got this as well to sort of then layer the picture a bit, so then that says, oh, there's background, there's nature here and there's nature in the background, so it sort of places her into it a little bit better. But that's just an experimentation, and it's up to you to sort of see if you think it's nice or not. But it would help frame it, because then your eyes sort of go, hey, there's this tunnel between these bushes. There's a pony in there,
And I would even say you're talking about how she's racing a friend, right? Sure, we don't really see the friend, but what you could do is extend this dirt pathway, have it go off the screen.
Her head got cut off.
Whoa! And that's a good point there too. But yeah, extend this white line out. Make it seem like there's more than one person can fit on the race area, so it gives a feel that she's racing other people too.
Yeah. And you could have just a little bit of the side of their head blurred in the front or something, or just a bit of mane or a leg. Have their leg. It depends on how close in they are, because they could just be, oh, here's a pony head. Here's a bit of mane. It depends where you want them sort of placed or arranged. And again, it's sort of thinking okay, if her box is here, then it's where's her friend? Is her friend over here somewhere? Going over our other drawing to draw this one, yeah. It's all about 3D space.
Yeah.
So what's up with snapping her head off, LD?
Her neck was very far extended forward, and if she's like coiling up to get off the line, I would try and show that more, especially because it appears that her head's supposed to be turned more towards the friend. So I would give it that feeling of overlapping the body more and turning it towards the friend.
See, now I didn't sort of visually take in enough like her anatomy before, so now I'm trying to visualize the head move back up. I can't remember like how it looked.
I really do agree with what Living Dead did, because it was pushing way over, like the neck was really extended, but because the angle we're looking at kind of like a 3/4 angle, there's going to be more overlap and less seeing of like neck, and like all that stuff's going to be covered by hair, you know? So pushing it back, definitely, this made it feel for me way more, like there's way more volumes, way more overlaps, so it feels more 3D, more like real. As real as our cartoon horses can get.
Hey,
It can
Allie,
be real to us.
you want to add on to that realness?
Yeah?
If we take the
How
tail,
do I... okay.
if we remember what a figure
Yeah.
looks like, and because she's rearing up her back, right? So the motion of that
she's
tail's not going to be kicking up; it's actually going to be pulling down. We're going to take that, we're going to throw it between her legs.
Yeah.
Overlap. The reason we do this is, as I was saying, because her back is kicking up, that tail still has a bunch of mass in it, and it's going to pull down the opposite direction. Right until it springs. Because we know ponies are actually just springs. And kittens and all sorts of weirdness. But yeah, if we're to bring it down between her legs and just pull it, it'll add to the layering effect, which will help coiling that body, really give the feeling of depth and like excitement to go. I would also suggest giving her a smirk, because right now she's just like happily smiling. Ah, cool. You're about to race your friend. You're excited for this. The challenge is on. Let's do this. Dash
Yeah,
smirk.
and especially if you learned anything from the Wonderbolts, they all kind of rag on each other and like really go head to head at each other. So their form of playful is, you know, a little more cocky, a little more, you know, I got you. I'm gonna beat you. No big deal.
I will experiment with a face. Just for my own sort of interpretation of it. So I actually, like I said, I do prefer the snouts being more perky up like they are in the show and movie and everything. This person was not. Were they actually watching the stream, LD? So you said they messaged you.
The message on Reddit.
So you can go for the sort of Trixie expression we had in the last picture. You know, just a bit more cocky and hair. Let's race. Want to race? Once I get the irises right, there we go. That's up to you to experiment with.
A smile in their eyes while being intense.
A fire in the eyes while being smiley.
No, the fire's on her butt.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, all special people.
I like that actually.
And another good point was mentioned by Chaos in our Discord, that the shadows are a bit strong for a sunny day. This is like a very, like, if she had a spotlight on her, these kind of harder shadows, these darker shadows would happen. I'd say the placement, pretty good. I would tone down the darkness of it just a little bit, because you'll also, as said by Chaos in our Discord, reflections from the environment on a bright sunny day kind of make you a little lighter, unless you're like in a spotlighted environment. I think the shadows aren't as intense.
So long, Sundow.
Night night.
Oh, they've already left.
Oh. Good night, anyone else who's leaving?
All right.
I don't know.
Shall we move on to the next one?
Let's do it.
Dun, 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 dun.
And hey, someone is going to bed somewhere in the world. Like I should be probably.
I just wish some strange. I'm gonna say a strange man to bed.
A strange dinosaur. So this one is Purple Horse, or done by Purple Horse. It is Duper Derpy reporting for duty.
Adorable.
It's very. Please excuse the lack of superhero costume. She forgot it at home.
Classic derpy.
So, we do have a resident derpy expert. You might know him as Fluffy's Eye.
No. No.
I know. He might like this horse a bit. So Fluffy's Eye, you want to take it away? Or are you speechless because it's derpy?
No, I think we lost him.
Yeah, he just fainted.
Oh no.
Needs more fluff.
The CPC critique of the century. We should get a sticker. Like, if we start branding things, I want a sticker that's like a fluffy sticker, and that says "Need more fluff."
I was worried when you said start branding things that you're gonna pull out the pig iron and
No.
you're gonna
Listen,
remember this one.
We have a throw it at our faces t-shirt and a line of like velvet stickers, you know, from the 90s that are like all like fuzzy and say like needs more fluff. It's perfect.
Oh, Fluffy's Eye's mic went down.
Oh,
Mic
no.
down, mic down. Yeah. Oh my god. No, Dino.
It's a good anime though. But yeah, Living Dead is currently drawing on the derpy. Some minor anatomy things going on.
Very
You
minor.
kind of missed her tummy there. Her eyes, her arm, this back arm here, kind of felt like it was on her front instead of her front being in front of her arm.
And it was
So just a little fix there.
just because of this line right here. You actually had
It was.
it like oh, come on, green. You had this line overlapping that, and the issue with that is perspective. Our eyes are drawn to perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We need the hints, and a line's a good hint.
Perspective.
Allie, where would you
Yes?
place the second wing?
The second wing? See, I'm trying to think because I see the body is 3/4. But I think it would be I think Cute Pencil Case is right. She's drawing in red there. I think it would be just barely visible to be completely
What a time for my
honest.
mic to go down.
Wow.
At least it
Yeah, I know,
started working
right?
again without me having to restart Discord. But now I've got to I'm holding it in my hand. What am I gonna do?
Oh no.
It's not in my stand anymore. I'll be silent just a little bit longer.
All right. So yeah, I think I agree with Cute Pencil Case on the placement of the second wing. It's not going to be totally out to see the other side because that would make one wing kind of behind her and one wing like stretching in front of her at that point. If it were to go like over here.
Test.
Welcome back.
Yay, it works still. My computer's not being silly about, oh, you need to restart Discord now before this works.
Silly.
I saw that, Allie. Yeah, do it. Do it.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure out the flow, but basically, you have a little bit of side tail going on, which is very common. Where pretty much, if you're doing a 3/4 view, people tend to make the tail on a side view. But you have to remember overlap. Things go behind the pony, especially when you're not looking at them from the side. So she's a little tail. Maybe it'll go under her because she's derper. She has a swooshy tail that swooshes and stuff, and you can have some overlap here, which makes it swooshable, swish and swooshy swish. Yeah. And then you get more 3D shape and feeling because overlap is your best friend when it comes to depth and form and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! The eyes are really cute. I enjoy the eyes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get that. Here's like sort of like an oval, sort of askew from the face, like it's angled slightly.
I love how there's like 3 people making circles on the eyes.
It's hard to get, especially when you're not used to the program like this. But
Yeah.
and I'm drawing from memory of references. It's sort of like this. And then of course you got like the expression, which there we go. CPC's got it pretty much. Just being all confident. But it's always good to get the idea of, okay, this is the space the eye occupies. I do. I love your legs. They're very nice. Very nice legs.
Nice pose.
I like the tail alley true.
Oh, thank you. It's very fluffy. Floofy. It's got volume. I like
Yeah, lots
volume.
of volume. That's what I like from it. It fits her. It's nice.
And of course, the classic Q pencil case fluff critique needs more fluff. It's a given for anything. Even if you're drawing a brick wall, needs more fluff.
I'm right. I totally agree. Want to draw? Why are there no muffin emojis ever? Like whenever I posted Pickle Derpy on Discord, I tried to like, I want to put a muffin like reaction emoji, but there isn't any. Travesty.
I think otherwise, I don't really have much else to say here. Super cute. Nice muffin horse. The things we said are the things I think that are great to be touched on.
You and me,
Yeah.
you know. Hit me up with more Derpy art. You know, we can
Fluffy always loves more.
sit there and share. We can deal the art together.
And the professional CPC down here is fluffing a brick wall. I appreciate her. I'm so glad she's here.
It's something special. Imagine the other
Bricks are fluffed. It's all fluffy. You touch it and it turns to fluff. It's the fluffy touch instead of the minus touch.
I admit I would so build a house where all the walls are just fluff. It's just like pillow walls with like those really fluffy cases.
This is
We
how
should
you
get
hit
you a
the
shag
balance.
carpet.
Oh God! Just think of the static.
And how to clean it. Woohoo!
Speaking of hooey, we got Applejack.
It's the apple horse of the hour. Another pen drawing. I appreciate the pen.
Who did this one?
Pen.
This one is by Spacey Stacy. Oh, what an awesome name!
It's really nice, and this is such an elegant style. Like it's really, really pretty.
It's like a nice,
Is this
pretty
the nose?
horsey.
That's really
Yeah.
nice.
Okay, pretty. It's a
It's
rough
like a doe
sketch
sort of nose.
of my favorite girl. No real critique on this one.
I would maybe say, like, if I'm being picky, the ear is a little close to the eye. Like, if we draw her circle... Oh, you know what? Actually, I take that back. Now that I've drawn a circle on her head, my biggest critique is that her hair is sitting on her head and not coming out of it. It's kind of like this
Oh yeah, that's something
long
Ali
hat.
points out a lot. Yes.
What can I say? I like the hair.
I hadn't
But-
noticed, but yeah.
I didn't notice either at first. But little things like that, they're totally worth doing. So just having the hair kind of have that distinction of where it's coming from the top of the head and where it's coming out from the side, because like if the head was a mohawk, all the hair, it just comes straight out of the head. So like it all does this. So at some point the hair's got to fall that way, and some point they get hair on their head too. So you just gotta find that in between area where you will get the distinctive bumps of the split of the mane. Can I erase? Oh no, I can't erase it without erasing everyone else's stuff. So yeah, that's my nitpicky critique.
So I feel like the ponytail's a bit like a sort of flat. I mean, it's realistic enough, like it's the way it's hanging down. But if you want to sort of add more feeling, you can always sort of try and stylize the way it's flowing, like I've drawn there, to really push the curves and shapes as they're flowing in and out of one another.
Otherwise, yeah, like you said, the head style is cute. It's like a very cartoon horse face, so you got the longer face, which is nice.
So it's hard to critique that because it's very stylistic. If it was more show style, it'd be something like this, or not even that, because that makes her face look very long. But it's since you've got something very stylistic, it's hard to sort of give that a proper
To
like.
compare it to a horse, I'd say there's nothing to really critique because it's just kind of that long muzzly shape of the whole horse. So yeah.
It's very pretty. It's very nice. It's interesting seeing Applejack put in like a really elegant light like this. Like, she looks very doe-like, like really pretty. It's very nice.
The elegant Applejack.
I will share my Applejack plushie because she's right next to me. No, I have an Applejack with me.
Yeah, but other than
Doesn't say
that,
much.
really, really great, beautiful work. CPC, if you've noticed, is drawing some heads there and kind of having the hat attached to, well, not attached to the head, but sitting on the head more. Because right now it's all kind of floating, like her hair's floating on her head and then her hat's floating on her hair. But to have that contact and overlap and interaction is really going to help. So that's something you could work on, of like it pushing more down, maybe interacting with her ear, because we're not quite doing show style, so you can try different things. Some hats have pony hole ears in them, so anything to kind of make it feel more attached to the head or sitting on the head rather than floating on the head. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Woo! And there is another picture posted to the stream chat.
There
so
is.
I guess we'll move on to them next.
They aren't actually here though.
Oh.
Apparently they posted them around.
They posted it 4 minutes ago on the subreddit.
Yeah. So we'll just keep in the order we're going. No harm in that.
Alrighty.
The commandant said they had a picture there.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
So hey, sorry I can't watch the chat, but I'd love to hear how he did recent Peace of Mind.
Oh.
Awesome. So then
I missed the first part of that, sorry.
On to Derpy and Ditzy.
Yay.
I'll just save the image. That's not an image. Save image. There it goes. You have to speak louder to it.
Ah, I see.
Ooh, why did I zoom out so far?
Wait, don't start drawing yet. He hasn't brought us to this image yet.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
How dare you do all the jobs? You had one job, Zob. One job.
And it was not rotate the canvas, right? Oh my gosh, how do you reset it to normal?
Oh no, is it being a
Kinda
bug?
hard to-
There.
If you just click it all the way, okay.
It's hard to draw on these super thick. I do not understand this program.
Well, you see, when two programs love each other.
That isn't remotely what I was saying.
So I gotta say, I love the action you got going on here. Really great feeling, like you got the curve of the body and you kind of curve into Ditzy. Though I will say, I know what you were going for with the arms back there, but they feel a bit broken, especially this back one here, because you're basically saying on like a pony where their arm, their hooves like to go straight down, the pony horse, you're basically saying her hooves are doing this, and that makes a sad filly. You don't want to hurt the filly. The filly is a nice. There's my pudgy little side view filly with the arm going backwards. So yes, that is my butchered little diagram that I can mess out in this program, this lovely program that we never complain about, right guys?
Right.
So I would just be careful of that.
Yeah, now I can actually see what I'm drawing.
Yay! Did you open up your eyes?
No, I faded the drawing underneath. So when I redline, I always lower the opacity of the drawings, but it's just me. Just so you can actually see the difference.
And I would also approach, let me make this a little bit bigger, the anatomy a little different, because you have a very long body on Derpy right here. So I drew the body circles. I got this big guy here and a slightly bigger guy there. So you have that, curve from the neck. Whee! That going on. And then I stretched out the legs a little more to help push the curve of her body a bit, because right now she's tucked in, doing like a cannonball. I think with the action pose she's doing, she's like leaping. She's trying to gotta go fast, you know? Catch her lovely filly. So we extend those legs out. We can go off the page that way.
Gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast, gotta go fast. So, I don't even know if that's a real song, Dino. I just made it up. Can't flag me if I made it up.
We'll just write our own music.
With that exact same melody.
I think that's how you still get flagged.
But they can't take away the phrase "gotta go fast."
Watch.
It has to be the same melody for me to get flagged. I'm playing the cheeky card.
I'd say again, just like with the last picture, look at sort of like how the mane sort of comes out of the head and sort of where it flows. So I don't know if at this point in the stream so if you're watching this later on YouTube, if you just cut to your bit, but if you go back a little bit to the last picture, we were talking a little bit about the hair. So it's that same thing, you know, it's going to be originating from this point and going outwards, and then it starts to fall into its natural like shape and everything. I might not have drawn it very well, but Ali's better than I am.
Nah, you got this.
We got this.
I would say like with the mane, look at like sort of how it's layered, because it's sort of you got a bit of confusion going on with like which bits are sort of in front of other bits. I think I don't know. There's something about it that doesn't sit quite as well as I feel like it should. Maybe you need to increase some of that overlap a little bit.
Yeah, it feels slightly flat. Like everything's kind of flat
So you've got
against
the
her.
overlap starting there, but like yeah, maybe it's just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it look a bit flat. I always like to increase the detail I have on my sort of mains and stuff anyway.
And I guess my only other, and this is totally optional, yada yada. I'm curious what Dizzy's looking at, because she's kind of staring off into space here. I think it could make the picture more interesting if you give them like eye contact with each other, like that connection, that bond between the two.
Wait, whoa.
Whoa, what? Whoa? Who? How?
No, that's not allowed.
No friendship, no love.
This is not a show about friendship. This is a show about...
How do you know?
Selling toys.
Yes.
So something I was sketching with, and this is totally, absolutely not something you have to worry about just yet if you don't want to, but it's always worth sort of keeping in mind, is, you know, eye shapes. Eyes are very interesting shapes because it's essentially an actual sphere, a ball, inside a socket. You know, you get like a little bit sort of bulging out of the face, but mostly they're sat like exactly inside the head. But they don't follow the head exactly. The face shape does not like sort of create a round circle with the eyes just being a part of that circle. You know, they're not painted on. So it's always sort of worth looking at how to experiment with the shape of them. And irises themselves as well, irises, pupils and everything, obviously the middle part of the eye is more like a lens, like a camera lens. So it's got its own 3D shape to it. And there are plenty of, if you look up anime tutorials, there are plenty of things on how to draw irises, because they love to like put lots of 3D shape into them from the side. And of course, in MLP, we tend to get the eye shape be the same when they turn around, just because I guess that's just like the shape of their eye, and it kind of works. But in anime, of course, the difference between a front view and a side view is very drastically different. You've got like, the sort of like triangle side view eyes. But it's because they sort of want to look at how the eye shape actually is from the side in real life. It is more of a study on real life eyes, and they will sort of show you how to sort of do. Like here I've sort of placed the pupil further back in the iris to sort of show like, hey, yeah, it's like a 3D object, and that the pupil's like at the back there of this lens with this lens in front of it. But this is just purely me messing around. I would advise looking up actual tutorials from someone who knows what they're talking about. But it's just sort of
Spoiler
keeping
alert,
in
we don't
mind.
know what we're talking about.
Mm.
Sorry, what?
It's just sort of keeping in mind, just keeping in mind that things that you're drawing are 3D shapes and like how those shapes are sitting and everything, you know.
Yay.
Otherwise, I don't really have much else.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next one then, which I think is the
Let's
last
do
one.
it. Yes, sir.
Um,
This one was submitted to us moments ago.
Right. I'm like, wait, where is it?
Waiting for LD to post that. There it is. Oh, it vanished.
Yeah, I posted on the wrong layer.
Silly Philly.
I'm just a filly. Make mistakes from time to time. All right, so this is posted by Mr. Hello.
Mr. Hello.
Where the heck is it? Oh my gosh. There it is.
Okay.
No, wait.
It was one of those pictures where I have to sort of think about, is there anything I can critique on this? And the first thing I sort of think that comes to mind is look at the length of your legs, because they do seem to be sort of uneven. It's an easy mistake to make. Whoops, I just color picked the black of the line. That won't be very clear. But just LD's lovely at teaching us about ways that you can sort of proportion and sort of analyze and calculate like the actual sizes you're using. But as well as that, a lot of the time is because you just forget to look at the sizes between things and look, say, oh, are my legs the same size? Oh, no, they're not. Sometimes we just sort of forget to take that into account. So even if you just look at it, sometimes you can just figure it out from your eyes alone. That, hey, yeah, if I make this one a bit longer and this one a bit shorter, they match a bit more.
So I think I have a very general critique.
All right.
That doesn't have to do with anatomy, doesn't have to do with proportions or anything. I'm going down to sketching. So to me, it seems like you're kind of doing the method of sketching where you're like, okay, little line by line, I'm gonna build it, I'm gonna make it go, and that's how you get kind of these like rigid, crazy lines going around, like how this arm feels super rigid, how all these kind of have like little like bunches of noise. I can only think of it like noise as in like visual noise.
Yeah.
Now, something we like to pretty much preach around here is the swoosh. The
swoosh.
swoosh is like, or swoosh, swoosh, 3-point
Yes.
dunk. I don't know.
The big
Wait,
swooshy lines.
So basically, we someone be a doll and bring up that Immigrant post for Zom to show on stream.
I think it's on our subreddit, right?
I'm not sure which post this is.
It is.
With Lunaby, if you do question mark swoosh, it brings up a nice little guide to show you what is swoosh and what is good about it and what is bad about like the sketchy sketches and whatnot.
Yes.
So
it's all good being messy, like we said, but
this is to give you even cleaner sketches. Even messy sketches are cleaner when you swoosh. They can be messy in their own form, but and also it's better drawing practice because doing those little scritchy scratches are gonna get to your wrists after a while. So it's like you want to do swift motions. We always talk about utilizing our elbow and our shoulder for a swoosh. So like right now I'm kind of doing it from my elbow, just kind of like letting it go. And maybe for smaller things I'll use my wrist. But like, ooh, little circle, swish that.
And the other thing is the messy sketches we sort of talk about is more about in the construction and build of it. But I would say as well, the difference between sort of doing the smaller things like this, it's the reason why we want to do this when we start drawing is because we're trying to very carefully make an exact shape, and it's right to want to be careful. It's natural. It's like I want to make sure I get this right. I'm trying to sort of like you're taking it seriously, and that's good. But what it is while we're frightened to do this as big swooshy sketches, and certainly with an actual traditional sketch, this is a lot harder to do because it's a lot harder to erase mistakes. And just a Control Z, and you can see I'm doing these lines over and over again. But the good thing about doing the big swooshy strokes is you're building muscle memory. When you're doing these little tiny squishy scratches, you're not really doing anything because you're advancing so slowly on each line, carefully building it up. You're not really teaching your hand. You're making a drawing, and that's fine. But like, what a good thing that's a benefit to you is to teach your arm to make these swooshes. If you can just do a circle like that, that's great. If your circles are coming like this, and you're like, okay, I need to build up a circle like this, you're not learning how to do a circle. You're never going to be able to just do a swooshy circle. It's never going to be perfect, of course, but even still.
And you don't need to rely on undo. Like, I want to make that very clear that even in traditional, you
Absolutely.
don't need to undo. Like, just, look right there. I'm not undoing anything. Okay, I want to correct my circle a bit, and great, I'll leave the lines there. Oh, there's my circle. Don't worry about undoing. This is sketching. This isn't making a masterpiece from nothing. This is figuring things out. You don't even need to rely on undo. So don't worry, be afraid on traditional.
Or your razor or whatever. But it's just good because when I look at some of these things, some of the parts of the lines, particularly around like the hair and stuff, I'm like, this is really cool because it's really nice how you've done it. You've not failed in making a really nice picture. But I just sort of look at it and think, if I was doing this, my hand wouldn't have learnt the shapes that I've used. Whereas if I sort of use more big swooshy strokes, even though, look, let's see how I just drew that purple line on the mane. I didn't even expect that to work. I expected to be like, oh, whoops, because like that's kind of how I started. But it's as you go and continue to build up this muscle memory, it becomes a lot easier, and eventually the swooshy strokes are ways that you might not be able to just do this exactly what I'm doing right now. It might not go nearly that well, but that's okay. Just keep doing it, and even if you have to draw it a bunch of times next to you, or just even if you do have to erase and keep trying it each time doing the swooshy stroke, you're teaching your hand, and that's the important thing, because eventually you do just get used to it, and you can just throw it out super quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it just it helps you to keep things light and like flexible. Sorry, Alex.
No, you're fine. And there's nothing wrong with redoing a sketch once or twice or 3 times or 10 times. It's actually really good practice to like try something and then go right next to it and try the same thing again, and then go right next to it and try the same thing again. Like, it's good practice because then you kind of go back and improve bit by bit, seeing what you can fix, what was good, what was bad. The more you can compare, the more you can try things, the more you can practice.
Yep. And we naturally want to sort of be like, oh, it's going to be like tedious to draw this over and over again, or we're worried that like we'll draw it again but it won't look right. But it doesn't matter like how it comes out. You're just like, you're trying each time, you're analyzing what you did before and what you did the first time and the second time, and and you're doing it again, and you're starting to understand how you drew it and how your brain worked and how your hand worked and how the lines worked, and you're breaking that down and starting to understand it better, and then you're reapplying it and changing it, and it might be a bit tedious, but you're not going to make anything worse. And even if you did, you're still understanding and experimenting, and you're learning and say, okay, well, I didn't like how I did the bridge of the nose that time, I'm going to try again, and you do the whole drawing again, even parts that you've sort of mastered, because you've mastered those parts now. That's great. And then you're like experimenting with the other bits, and eventually you get those mastered too.
And I'd like to quick mention the awesome person that is Chaos, always giving us more information.
Oh, yes.
The thing also about swooshes, you play with line weight. With scratching, you don't work with line weight. You're constantly doing these little lines that could maybe get thicker and thinner. Maybe, you can even see in your drawing how the weights change so easily between your sketches. No line weight is getting through at all because just little things piled on top of each other, or it constantly aligns thinning in and out over just like one curve. Swooshes help you utilize that line weight, make drawings feel like it has more form, make the lines pop more. Like, there's so much you can do with line weight. So that's another benefit to swooshing. Even with pencils, swooshing and line weight is a thing, because pressing light and pressing hard and how you finish the stroke, how you start the stroke, all that stuff matters.
Swooshing is magic.
Swooshing is so magic. It's love, it's life.
Yeah, it's definitely just like a good technique to get into the habit of, because it will just sort of help you stay flexible and advance it more. Otherwise, the only other sort of more on a more sort of technical, I again, as with another earlier picture, I felt like the eyes were very close together. Remember, the bridge of the nose is a thing. Just sort of look at the construction of the face and just sort of how everything is balanced. I'm actually going to try this for the first time. I'm going to press V as I did earlier in another picture and see how this looks mirrored. And I feel like the face, looking at this now, I feel like the face is maybe a bit long and narrow. It's always good to sort of, if you can, try and get your picture from a mirrored perspective, because your brain just can't see things symmetrically as we think we see things. We can't actually see symmetry very well. So it's always good to like put your picture to a mirror or take a photo of it and reverse it. Or if you're on a drawing program, just hit a button, hit H, whatever the hotkey is, to flip your picture, if your program can do that, and then or just do a transform and flip it. And then you can see, oh yeah, I think this needs to be transformed, or I think this eye needs to move over, or something, you know. But yours is actually pretty good. It's there's nothing too off about it, mirroring it. But so that's great. But it's just stuff like that, just to keep in mind, like how the facial construction happens and stuff. It's kind of hard to see what I've drawn on this because everything's all white.
And I think I just have one last little thing that's not as broad. The tail you got going on here, it's kind of doing that side view thing we talk about a lot. Her tummy is turned more towards us, so the tail would be more behind her. So I would even say like you just barely see the hints of a tail happening at that point. Because how, think about it, the tail's on, like, if you look at the circle of a pony's butt, the tail is like dead center coming out of it. So if you turn that circle, you're not going to see it if you turn it to the opposite side. So that's my 2 cents on the tail.
So if you can see Ali's thing here, so you got my tools messing up and not letting me get to my pen to draw, but and then I have the wrong color, whatever. Yeah, so you got the butt coming out here, and then you got Ali's line, which is going over in red there. It's going behind it. So if you ignore this tail, or if I even make it white, no, I can't. My thing is switching between all sorts of colors. It's weird. There we go. Just trying to make our sketching more clear. Sorry.
It's definitely something to play with, but like consider how the spine is going to twist, how the body's turning. And I would play with that, because even in some cases, you won't see the tail at all, especially a tail that short. So sometimes I know we want to see the tail, but some poses, they will not show the tail. Like, more and more I think about it, I think you would barely see this tail at all, because it's so short. Because it'd mostly be falling behind her. But yeah, that's my nitpicky with the tail. Otherwise, I got nothing else.
Yay.
All right, let's move on to the last picture so far.
Which
is the CPC.
Yes, a new one, just given to us by our very own fluffer.
Newly minted.
Fresh off the CPC presses. Oh, she says wait.
The cute pencil press.
The cute pencil press.
I kept working on it.
She says wait, I keep working. You gave us a version and then kept updating it. You silly filly. Gotta give us a screenshot quick. Oh, there's a newer version, I guess.
Oh, I see.
What are you doing, LD? Why are you a duck?
He's no longer LD. He is now Donald. It is very clear now.
He is still LD, Ali. He's living duck.
No, he is. He is Donald Duck.
He's a zombie duck. I'm just gonna call him living duck now. Oh my god.
That is strangely so good.
It's absolutely crazy. So did you have any sort of questions, queries, CPC? Was it the sort of balancing of grayscale colors we're going for here?
I think she mentioned that she basically wants to know how everything looks before she goes on. She didn't really have any questions.
So
like
adorable.
if there's anything major.
So adorable.
Personally, if Living Duck could be quiet. Personally, I feel like the mane is a bit too dark of a grayscale. I would maybe move it a bit lighter, or sort of maybe it'll be better once you get like if you're putting sort of like lighter colors inside it for that sort of swishy galaxiness. Like that's way too light. Oh my god. Oh my god. Um, these pencils. There's no in between. If you say, oh, I got swishy color. This is really thick. The size changes very slowly, but ooh, galaxies and whatnot, and then there's gonna be little stars. Stupid. That's not the tool I want. This program is so crazy. Yeah, this is still too bright. So yeah, maybe once you get stuff in, then it looks a bit better. But this is horrible. I can't do it. But it's just because it's just flat anyway. It looks a bit too thick. But maybe the base color could be a little bit lighter anyway. I mean, conversely, the sky behind her is very, very light. It's the lightest thing in this. Her body is the darkest. And so it's like what actually is going to be. I mean, that way it does put the focus on Luna, but it's like, did you want to experiment with doing maybe her body and mane a little bit lighter, and the clouds maybe being the gray you got for the background, and then having the sky the darkest thing? It's try switching things around just to see what works anyway. So I mean, a black sky would totally make sense.
And I think the only thing me and Zamzam kind of teamworked it at was the cheek could be a little less rounded, because right now it's like really extending off her face, and the same with her bottom lip. She's kind of got like a big old bulging like
A pursing.
No, like there's a name for that, like a person, like those really like plump lips. I can't think of the word for it. It's such a P. Anyway, sort of like purse. That's it. I couldn't think of it. Instead of making such a defined big line for it, I think it would bode much better to just kind of have that little indent and kind of go around the face a bit. It'll make it feel a bit smaller, a bit cuter, not as plump. But that's my 2 cents on that. Because right now you got a big old bottom lip.
Any further questions, CPC? Before I go back to, it's adorable, it's adorable, it's adorable, it's adorable.
It really is adorable. This is gonna be cute. I can see this as like a little postcard.
Do I have to resize the canvas again? Damn. Nope, it's small.
Oh. It's been a big day.
So much art.
Bird.
There's a picture for
I've
this.
seen this bird. This picture?
Of so much art.
So much art. All the art.
Alright. You have any questions, Ender Dragon?
Yeah. So I've shown this to Alley Claw privately, and I've been kind of working on it in draw-alongs. But I'm mostly just worried about anatomy. It's a little bit sketchy, and it's got some problems with the shoulder, and I'm not sure about like his right eye, and just anatomy problems. I'm not sure about the hand either.
Them birds. The birds are the words.
The hand's actually a hard one to talk about because you are just sort of breaking anatomy. What's your goal with the hand? Is it supposed to be a human hand that's using feathers instead of?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's supposed to be like a feathery hand. So like the fingers are supposed to be like feathers.
All right, then if it's that case, is it supposed to rotate like a human hand?
Yes.
All right. And how do you see a salute? Do you see a salute being sideways, like perfectly perpendicular, sort of to the forehead, or do you see it turned?
Let me see if I can add a picture to the chat.
Because it all depends on what you're going for there. If you're going for like, that straight edged salute, then you definitely want to turn the hand up like it's been done on that blue line. But if you're trying to like sort of turn it down so it's blocking sun, then what you have makes sense.
I'm trying to find one that's good. This is actually a pretty good one.
I will tell you, you have a beautiful reference, and it's attached to you. It's your hand. You get to walk up to a mirror or hold out your cell phone and use its camera. Do whatever you want for. Oh, it
and
is
I can
turned
like
down.
stick that. Yeah.
Oh, I never knew it's turned down.
Yeah, it's like a 45-degree turn.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not straight.
In that case, your hand makes sense. But those are very short feathers. And if that's the end of a wing,
Yeah, you're right.
those are going to be very long feathers. So do away with this thingy right here. We're going to do away with that. We're just going to stretch out them feathers. Yeah. Yeah, keep them.
Give them that curve works as well.
Oh yeah, that's good too.
So make it more obvious that it's a wing. A good idea.
Yes. Oh. I wish I could just like sketch like that and just like.
It'll come.
You too.
Hopefully.
In time.
Just do 10,000 drawings and then do 10,000 more and you'll be there.
Oh, and don't forget the 10,000 after the 10,000.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just implied at that point.
I mean, I think the other thing, shot out of the blue, is this going to be an eagle or is there any type of bird it is?
It's a jayhawk, so like I can add it. Yeah, so like.
Throw them references, or I'll just Google it. Whatever's easiest.
Yeah, just look up like KU jayhawk.
I don't know. I'm just experimenting.
Because like I think of birds of prey, and I think they have much more of a neck. This feels like a very thin neck for like a bird of its type. So I would even, instead of just treating it like a regular human neck, let me get a thinner brush. Give it some poof. Make it like really sit, on that. Make it define. Like you think of like, see, even in that reference there, he's got big old poof going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, green should probably isn't the best color to choose. We'll go red. Ooh. Yeah. Big old scruffy, poofy birds. Birds of prey tend to have like really poofy necks. Like
Yes. I mean that would work a lot in sort of into what I've been sketching with, which is just that the sort of the arm and torso and everything were very, very straight. Like the arm and torso just both went straight down. I was sort of like looking at the construction of a sort of torso, because obviously this is sort of like a more of a humanoid shape. I was using sort of like a male torso. Like the back would sort of stretch in from under the arm like that. You got like the chest would kind of protrude a little bit at an angle and then dip down. The shoulder as well. I'm not sure if the arm should be exactly straight. It can very well be. I was sort of trying to make it a little more dynamic. It could be sort of behind them as if they got like a hand behind them. I know that's a very formal sort of pose. But it's up to how you want to interpret it. I was just trying to sort of make it look a little bit less stiff, because it was a very. I mean, it's a very formal, stiff kind of pose, but like the picture looked like it had a very sort of clear plane of like all the lines were just a bit too orderly and sort of a bit too straightly shaped. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what's this line on the beak that you have drawn there?
I just I was sort of trying to define the center of the head. Oh, I've gone back the wrong way. So if I go over this again, I was sort of looking at the hat. So I'm not sure if you have a reference to that as well, but like I think that if you're looking at where between the eyes is, the head is going like this. In fact, if anything, that eye is kind of a bit far over. Again, the eyes are going to be the center, and then there's the middle of the head. So the hat's going to be coming over maybe, and it's going to be like if it's sort of centered on the head, not deliberately askew, then this is the middle here, where the middle of the head is. So it's just like, okay, the middle of the hat goes up here, and then similarly for the beak, it depends on like if it is very top down, it'll be just like your Pensacola drawn there. If you want it sort of brought up a bit, then there'll be some hidden, and it'll come out from up there, or it might even be more forward facing. It depends on what sort of angle. So looking at the direction of the torso as well.
Mm-hmm.
If the torso is going this way, the beak will be as well. You know.
Mm-hmm.
They're just sort of like taking into account, and it's not like very inaccurate. It's not like going off at the wrong angle or anything. It's just sort of working at like making sure that it looks like it's going with the same like perspective. If that makes sense.
Is it as it is, or what would I
It
need to
looks
change?
okay as it is. Yeah, it's not like very askew or anything. I
Mhm.
can't seem to go back far enough to get rid of this now. Okay, he's just got a line in his chest.
Okay.
But it's yeah, I do this, and you anyone sort of like watching often, or the LD and Ali here probably see me do these lines along the middle of the face and down the body a lot, because I like to do that to define the center of the figure. It just helps a lot, like just as an experiment to sort of see, okay, like is this like, because sometimes it's really easy to like get a nose or something like going off at the wrong angle.
Mhm.
But I think you've done a good enough job. I was just trying to figure out, like, make sure that it was like at the right angle. Maybe have like some little nostrils just to help sort of define. Okay, that's where it is.
Oh, that's a good idea.
There's
I think
zombie
it'd be
appearing on the
further up his
bottom.
head, but yeah, I think it'd be closer to the eyes.
Beaks are tricky. Like I've
Mhm.
struggled with them. Maybe bottom. I'm not sure. I can't remember how beaks are supposed to look though. I know they've got like an overlap.
Allie wants to go back to ponies.
What? Never do none.
Addie likes her
Listen.
burbs.
I like my burbs. I'm dating half a burb. Fine.
Dating half a burb.
No, but beaks are really interesting because they come literally in all shapes and sizes and different ways they attach to the head, and there's a lot to them, a lot of different shapes, a lot of different positions, lots of different curves, lengths. The day goes on. The beak goes on. It's most important that you just have a reference, and yeah, like Fluffy was saying, like find the center, play the game, do the simple shapes.
Can you give some more comments on the arm and its position?
Which one? Like the one that's
The saluting one, yeah.
It's fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
CPC did some slight changes,
Mhm.
like a dip here, because there's a fabric, and sometimes fabric will have a little dip, as well as the arm. And just different shapes. Arms aren't normally perfectly straight tubes. They got some bend to them, even if it's just slight.
Okay, and you think that the upper part of the arm should kind of have that line coming down into the other arm, into the other part?
Yeah.
Like this here.
Overlap.
The overlap.
Yeah, the overlap. Yeah. Yeah, there and yeah.
Yeah. It's good to show that the arm's in front of the body. Or, connected to it in a way that it is in front of the body.
Cool. I'll see if I can fix that.
Yay.
Yeah, can you send that to me as well? I think I've sent you my email address, but I can stick it in the chat again.
Send you what? This
The red line.
Oh.
Yeah, the red line. Yeah.
I'll print screen. There you go. Complete.
Oh, there we
weird
go.
pictures. And here, changed Luna. It looks like a Wuna.
On top of spaghetti, all covered in Wuna.
Covered in stars.
It looks like you didn't shrink the cheek too much. Just barely. I still think I'd shrink the cheek just a little bit more. I know it's adorable and stuff, but with the amount you have her head turned. I would also move the nostrils over on the face of it because right now her muzzle's turned more towards us than her face is. Sorry, I'm just looking at her picture in the chat.
Ah.
Yeah, my bad. That's all I got. So we're going to call this a stream?
Yeah.
Levy had a question.
Levy. Oh! Sorry, I was clicked on a different thing there. I had Living Duck on my
It's
face.
totally fine.
Hi, guys.
See, that's my one job. See, you guys don't have to yell at me. I did my one job.
How do you do cool lines like that implies a line, but is actually a little hint of a line, like for minor creases in skin? It looks really great when people do it that aren't me. Art. Oh, that's line weights. 100% line weights. 98% line weights. Okay, it's usually line weights. What are line weights? They're literally the thickness of a line, like how intense that line is sticking out to you. You'll see them heavily abused in like manga, because if you don't have color, you have line weights to help you give that more detail and separation.
Yeah. They help to show sort of like contrast and like even like brightness and dimness.
But seriously, go look at your manga. Go search line weights. Go eat that stuff up.
I've seen some pretty great pictures where you have like sort of really thick lines around the bigger, thicker, more voluminous parts of the body, like say the mane, and then like really thin line weights, like the details on it. So then it really adds a nice contrast between those.
Go look at NC Mares. They abuse line weights heavily.
Yes. NC Mares is gorgeous.
You'll see things, thin, fine, delicate things like manes for them. Very thin lines, except for a few heavy accenting lines for large bodies of the mane. For things like the clothing or turrets, because they make like tank ponies, they will often vary the line weight just to sort of give it a boldness, a reason to attract your eye towards it.
And like I also like to think of it as like a texture, because like I know you brought in your example like for minor creases in skin and such. Yeah, it's like that. It's like when something fades in and out, like you said, with how something gets super thin, it disappears. So like having those gaps to show a line weight, it's like fading. Oh,
Ender.
What is happening?
I muted him.
Oh.
Okay.
Saved it. But yeah, think of it like lines thinning in and out. You know, you get the idea, the illusion of a line. Your brain connects the dots, per se. And it's just playing with that. It's also like a texture. It's things that don't require a full outline. It's the idea, the texture of a line. Like, you know, it's kind of bending this one way, but it's not totally crazy.
Yes, that is true. It is another thing to learn. But it's an awesome thing when you get the real hold of it. Let's see if I can go find them on Derpy Bureau.
Oh, I think Ander is like realized what's happening and that he's muted.
Yeah, I muted him.
Yeah, but he might be done making noise now. He left and rejoined.
Oh, okay.
So
I just
not
hit
sure if he was
server
trying to
mute.
figure
I'm
out.
not sure. They should be able to unmute themselves if they click.
No, not if you're server muted, I don't think.
Oh.
I'm not sure actually.
There. I've server muted.
No, he's just regular muted, so he must have been. I think they're two separate things.
Here.
Now it's just his mute.
Here's an NC Mirrors picture that is just. It's only using pen of all craziness, and it shows line weight with just a single ball 10.
He's really good, and he's here in our server as well. Super great guy.
And like you'll even notice bits of like the tail, the hair kind of fades in and out, even though it's not as much as I think you're talking about. I'm not quite sure, but you'll notice like you just fade, you fade in and out. It's kind of like you see parts of the hair, but you don't see the entire strand. You know, you kind of get these lines, they play. It's a textural thing.
Yeah, it helps to build up like detail and stuff, and then you've got like thicker parts that sort of more solid objects. So
Yeah, and you
it
even
really
got
works.
those. Oh wait, that might be pencil sketching. I thought he had like the seams of the Wonderbolt's outfits going down the legs, but I think that's just sketching.
I think he does. No,
No,
I'm
that's
not sure.
I think that's implied shading.
Oh, well, there you go. Even like the little lines of seams, you know,
Yeah.
very light, delicate, disappears at some points.
Mm.
Minor details that are usually not quite outspoken, but still there.
The small details that can help to build it up and sort of make your sketch a little bit more sort of like not sort of messy, but also just more like it has life in it.
Mm-hmm.
Not as flat anyway. Oh no, suggested pictures.
Hey, they're still set as
They're
suggestive.
censored.
Thank God for filters.
Yes. Now he's just browsing Jappy Boy.
No, I was trying to get another example of where they use
Sure.
line weights. Also,
Yeah.
this story. Awesome. Yeah, you can see it like the mane versus the face versus the guns.
Yeah. So I guess that's officially it, unless anyone else in the chat, last chance. Otherwise, we're done.
Bueller.
We have to wait
Who?
like 2 minutes for the stream delay.
Alright, well, I'll just keep clicking NC Mayor's pictures.
Sounds great.
Sounds like a very productive use of time.
Remember when we wanted
Big
to do
fluffy
that
ponies.
thing where we
Look at that
featured
tongue. Your little tiny apple.
tiny apple? Well, big apple. Really.
Big apple with a tiny apple and tongue.
Oh, these ones show it a lot better. Look at the
Oh,
bold
those-
lines.
They've even got like the block shading. It's lovely. See, look, you got like super straight horn because it's like solid and like thick, and then you got even like the shine on it, and then everything else is like really soft and like loose, like the mane and fur and stuff.
Yes. And honestly, I can't teach better than just Strangosaurus did right there. You know, you draw the circle, and then you draw the rest of the pony. And that is
Pretty
the
much, yeah.
secret. That is the secret. Don't tell everybody, okay? That is like top secret information.
Alright, then we're going to call it a day. And we'll see you
Sure.
all next week, probably.
Yay!
What is next week?
Same pony time.
Same
next
pony
week?
place.
Same pony channel.
So long, everyone.